Flight simulators. They're an invaluable tool for training soon-to-be pilots in the operation of aircraft. Aircraft that require knowledge of complex controls and no small amount of skill to operate. The rapid development of computer hardware over just a few decades has given way to increasingly lifelike simulations, many of which make full use of realistic cockpits that imitate those of real aircraft with incredible precision. Of course, that's not to say that only pilots in training are able to enjoy the experience of simulated flight. Consumer flight simulators have been available since the earliest years of computer games, created primarily for recreation. The public's fascination with flight has led to highly advanced consumer simulations to arcade-style flying games created purely for fun, without the complexities of more realistic flight sims. Nintendo's SNES title Pilotwings brought the world of the recreational flight sim to the homes of countless video game fans, making use of the console's impressive pseudo-3D Mode 7 capabilities to create the impression of a 3D space for players to explore. Giving players the objective of earning their pilot's license, they offered various methods for taking to the skies, ranging from hang gliders to rocket belts. Admittedly, Pilotwings falls well within the recreational category of flight sim, using elements of flight simulations as a groundwork for a largely arcade-like experience, with simple controls and objectives like flying through a specific number of floating rings before making a safe landing. The game was also an early showcase for the 3D visuals the SNES was capable of producing, giving fans an idea of what the console was technically capable of. During the development of the Nintendo 64, known for most of its development as Project Reality and eventually the Ultra 64, Nintendo sought the help of numerous companies and game developers to flesh out both the hardware and software of the system. This group of companies and developers became known as the Dream Team, with the likes of Silicon Graphics, DMA Design, who would eventually become known as Rockstar North, and Rare among them. One of these developers was Paradigm Simulation, a company known for developing advanced flight simulation software for high-profile clients like Boeing and NASA. In 1995, Paradigm began their work with Nintendo on a project well-suited to its cutting-edge flight sim expertise, a sequel to Pilotwings. It's no surprise that Nintendo revisited Pilotwings when developing their next home console, the Nintendo 64. The primary appeal of their upcoming hardware was its 3D capabilities, with full polygonal 3D being the new standard for the future of video games. If the original Pilotwings was a spectacle of pseudo-3D for their previous console, a sequel would be well-suited for the new world of true 3D visuals. This was especially true given all the help provided by Paradigm, who had their technical skill with flight sims in particular to offer to the project. In a 2006 interview with game development news site Gamasutra, former Paradigm head Dave Gatchell stated, "Pilotwings 64 was our first game, so at the time, we had very little experience as game developers. After that point, our strength was primarily on the technology side, specializing in high-end 3D graphics tools and applications for the simulation and training industry. Consequently, we worked cooperatively with Nintendo focusing on the game design and Paradigm on the technical production. Pilotwings 64 was launched in 1996, alongside the Nintendo 64 as a launch title for the console's respective Japanese, US, and European releases. The game took clear cues from its predecessor, containing similar gameplay and the objective of earning a pilot's license. However, there were plenty of improvements. The use of polygonal 3D gave the game world depth that simply wasn't possible with the original's flat, scaled environments. Alongside the game's primary hang glider, rocket belt, and gyrocopter modes, which were similar to modes found in the original Pilotwings, the game also featured unlockable bonus modes, including launching your character out of a cannon in an attempt to hit a huge target, skydiving, and using a pair of boots known as the Jumble Hopper to launch your character across the map, and the famous Birdman mode, which allows the player to fly around the map using a pair of bird wings with no objective at all. Paradigm's influence on the game is easy to see if you're familiar with other flight sims. The environments are well crafted and very detailed for the N64's hardware, especially for a game developed so early in the console's life. Textures used on environments have a very realistic quality, similar to those found in more advanced flight sims. Included among the game's environments is a small replica of the United States known as the Little States, complete with well-known landmarks. Paradigm's knowledge of and experience with flight sims gave the game a layer of polish that Nintendo likely couldn't have accomplished on their own, with their comparatively limited 3D development experience at the time. After their work on Pilotwings 64, Paradigm continued to work in game development as Paradigm Entertainment, working mostly on licensed games and creating development kits until their acquisition by Infogrames in 2000. After the acquisition, Paradigm continued development on licensed titles. The company was sold to THQ in 2006, with THQ closing Paradigm down only 2 years later. Despite their somewhat anticlimactic end, Paradigm has earned its place in history, both for its work in advanced flight simulations and with Nintendo on one of the most important games on the Nintendo 64. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I will see you next time.